Today we are finding the slope and y-intercept from 2 points. Our goal is that we can determine the equation of a line when given 2 points on the line. So finding the slope from 2 points. Reminder, we find the slope by finding the change in y over the change in x. So if we're given the points 2, 2, and 4, 6, we want to find the slope of the line. To find the change in y, we use y sub 2 minus y sub 1. We can also use y sub 1 minus y sub 2 as long as we identify, and it doesn't really matter which one you identify as your 1 and your 2, as long as you are consistent with it. So first let's start with the one we identified as our 2 and our with the blue. So we're going to start with 6 minus 2, which will give us 4. If we do it the other way, we get 2 minus 6, which will give us negative 4. You'll find out by the end that we will not get a different answer by doing either one, as long as we are consistent with identifying our 1 and our 2. Okay, so when we get to our finding our change in x, again, staying consistent, we're going to do in blue x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And our x sub 2 is 4 minus our x sub 1, which is 2, gives us 2. If we follow the same line of thinking in green with our x sub 1 minus our x sub 2, we get 2 minus 4, which gives us negative 2. Now, to find our slope, we set up our slope as the change in y over the change in x. We're going to do the green because I have the green in my hand, and it's noisy to change markers. So I have my y is negative 4, and my x is negative 2. When I simplify that, negative 4 divided by negative 2 gives me 2. So I have a slope of 2. If I do my blue, I have 4 over 2, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So either way, I get 2. The most important part, again, is that we are consistent. Moving on to our next slide, we're going to, on our own, find the slope of the line containing these points. You have 3 problems to do. I'd like you to do them on your own, try them on your own, and then come back and join me doing the problems. Okay, so we're ready to go. I'm going to set this one up as my 1, this one up as my 2. And I'm going to set them up just so that I'm doing them one over the other. I'm going to do my y's, 10 minus 7, and 4. Nope, got that wrong. Gotta stay with my y's. Okay, I looked at my x's and my y's. So, if I'm staying with my y's, okay, so y's. Let's do 7 minus 4. And now my x's. I'm going to do those in green. So I'll do 4 minus 10. Okay. Now, do this one first. We'll do 4 minus 7 is negative 6. And 7 minus 4 is 3. When I simplify it, I get negative 1/2. Hopefully you got the same thing. All right, next one. We'll see if we'll do 1 and 2. And in this case, I think we're going to do the 2's first. We'll do 10 minus 5 and 2 minus 1. We simplify, we get 5 over 1, which gives us a slope of 5. This last one, again labeling 1 and 2 just so we stay in order. I get negative 8 minus negative 7, and I get 2 minus 3. So let's go ahead and rewrite this one as negative 8 plus 7. And if we want, we can go ahead and simplify at this point, or we can just leave it as is. So I end up with negative 1 on top, and 2 minus 3 gives me negative 1, which will give me a 1. So as I've said in the past, if you ever have any questions, please make sure that, one, you can go back in the lesson, rewind, look at it again. If something doesn't make sense, hopefully you'll catch it the second time around. And if it still doesn't make sense, make note of it and ask me in class the next day. We're going to move on to our next slide. Looking at our 2 points from earlier, we had the points 2, 2 and 4, 6. And we're just going to plot those real quick and refresh our memory on using the change in y and the change in x. So we had 2, 2, which goes right here, and 4, 6. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we said our slope earlier using our change in y over change in x equation was 2. We found it, and we used change in y over change in x. We also called it rise over run when we were looking at graphing. So we rise 1, 2. I'm going to make little marks in another color. So we rise 1, 2, 3, 4. And we run 1, 2. So we have a 4 over 2, which gives us a slope of 2 still. This is just another way we can do it using a graph, just to refresh our memories. Okay, now I encourage you to use both methods to verify the slope of the line on these. You can find a change in y over change in x and use this rise over run method to do this. Go ahead and come back to me after you've done it. Okay, hopefully you've had enough time to go ahead and do these. Let's go ahead and look at, we have 1 and 2. So we do 2 minus 2 over, I'm going to pick one, 6 minus 4, I guess. And we get 0 over 2. Well, that looks kind of fishy, doesn't it? So let's see what happens when we plot this out. So what do we call this when we have 0 over 2? Let's plot. We get 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, and we get 6, 2. Well, we have a straight line. Oops, that's not going to be a good line. Should have used my line tool, it would have been much prettier. So there's the line for that one. So it's just a flat line. Let's go ahead on to the next one. We have, here's 1, here's 2, 4 minus 3 over 5 minus 5. We all know we're not allowed to have a 0 as a denominator because that comes back as undefined. We're going to see what happens when we have an undefined slope. What we call that. Does anybody, well, I can't ask you if anybody remembers because you guys can't really answer me. So we'll go ahead and graph these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. Here's 5, 3, and 5, 4. As you can see, it's going to go straight up and down. When we have straight up and down, we call this no slope. When we have a 0 denominator, it's defined as no slope when it's a straight up and down line. Okay, so hopefully you guys made note of any questions that you might have, and you'll bring them to class with you tomorrow. Have a great day.